Hello again. My name is Jessica McCoy, and this is my case study presentation for copyright violations. So just a summary on the district. State City Dependent School District is a rural school about 25 miles from the bigger city. It is a K-8 building. The high school are transported over to the big city for their school. In the K-8 building, there is a single superintendent and principal that serves for that, with also 2 teachers per grade level. The building services about 420 students. As far as financial support goes, the district holds 2 fundraisers a year. With that, the students participate in a candy and gift wrap fundraiser. That's pretty common in a lot of schools, I believe. And then the local PTA organization sponsors a spring fling that students get involved in and raise money with. With the district's budget, basic materials and small amounts of funding is available for computers or new software, and that's the funding that they receive from the state. The school and PTA, with their fundraisers that they do each year, they were able to acquire enough funds to purchase 20 computers for a computer lab. As far as the people go, Mr. Sample is the superintendent and K-8 principal. He has been there 3 years. He has worked diligently to build positive relationships with the staff. He has many supporters, not only in the building, but also in the community. And he has designed a new vision and mission statement for the district, which states to become a more innovative and technology-based school district. We have Mrs. Lynn. She is the librarian, and she also manages the computer lab. She doesn't have any formal training in the library or computer lab. She was actually a parent volunteer that was hired for that position. She is well liked and respected by teachers. And she is responsible for setting the schedule for teachers to use the computer lab. And she has made the schedule available so all teachers have time during that each week. All but 3 teachers regularly use the computer lab. She was responsible for collecting and prioritizing teacher requests for any software programs due to the new funding or the additional funding that was available. So she took the request in and determined what programs the teachers wanted, and then she ordered the new software and installed those or placed those in the computer lab. There are 2 other teachers that are main people in this case study. Mrs. Brandon is a 3rd grade teacher. This is her 1st year in the district, but 4th year as a teacher. And she is very knowledgeable of copyright violations, and she is concerned about how the district is handling those. And then Mrs. Williams is also the other 3rd grade teacher, and she has been a longtime teacher at the school district. And she is delighted to receive any new resources that are provided to her. And then we have the local PTA organization. They are responsible for doing that one fundraiser each spring. The PTA and district staff formed a committee, and they agreed to use the monies to purchase those 20 computers. And then they also created a goal that they would purchase new software over the next 2 years. The PTA president did get involved and assist Mrs. Lynn in making the software copies, and she was pleased to see that the district and Mrs. Lynn were stretching dollars to help all students and staff in their learning. But wait, there is a copyright violation, because extended use of software without permission or additional license is a copyright violation. So the violation in question went down like this. Mrs. Lynn, after prioritizing software requests and then purchasing those for the computer lab, she acquired USB drives or flash drives and copied new software at the request of the teachers because they wanted to be able to use them in their classroom separate from the lab. She was addressed by Mrs. Brandon on the issue and kind of overlooked or just shrugged off the violation. She was then notified by Mr. Sample of the copyright violation and claimed she was unaware of the issue. She felt that she was following the district's vision and mission statements that Mr. Sample had created and was in the best interest of the district with what she was doing. And she was looking out for the district by trying to stretch out every dollar possible to make things feasible for the staff. Mrs. Brandon was the one who identified the copyright violation. She refused the copied programs that Mrs. Lynn was handing out and tried to inform Mrs. Lynn that she should not be copying because of the copyright laws. She then reported the violation to Mr. Sample and doesn't want to really interfere or cause conflict because she is a new teacher and she really enjoys working there, but she is extremely concerned about how the violations of the copyright laws will go for the district. So Mr. Sample's response, after hearing the concerns and the possible violations, he spoke with Mrs. Lynn the day after he was notified by Mrs. Brandon. He did ask clarifying questions of Mrs. Brandon beforehand, wanting to know how many and which programs were copied. He did mention to Mrs. Lynn that he appreciated her being resourceful, but that she was in violation of the copyright laws. And this was in reference to Title 17 of the U.S. copyright law. He does acknowledge that there are serious consequences for the district and staff if this is not addressed, and he informed Mrs. Lynn that she must collect all copies and stop making any future copies. So I believe Mr. Sample's response did identify and address the violation. He did work to determine how many times the copies were downloaded, and he requested that all of those copies be collected. He did acknowledge Mrs. Lynn's positive outlook for the district, but that it was still in violation and needed to be addressed. And he did also voice concern of what it could cost the district if the district was cited with the violation. What he did not do was he did not request that those copies, once collected, that they be destroyed. And this was in accordance to copyright laws. And then he also needs to consider addressing copyright laws with the entire staff and with the PTA, given that they were involved in this. So I do not believe anyone was directly harmed, but I do believe that harm could come if the copies are not fully collected and destroyed. It would not only harm those individuals involved, but the district as a whole. The actions that took place did violate the U.S. copyright law, and there was a breach of contract with the software company because the copies are not covered under the educational fair use. So the software that is provided in the school is a commercial use software. And what that is it is covered by copyright. A backup can be created, but it can only be used on the original computer or location that it was first installed. Modifications to the program are not allowed. There is no decompiling allowed, and there are no development of new work, which would include those copies. That cannot take place. So that is where the violation is. So did Mr. Sample's actions or lack of actions interfere with the current and future success of his students and teachers or their well-being? I believe that his actions were in the best interest of the students, teachers, and the district. But I do also believe that further action must be taken so it doesn't interfere with their well-being. So my statement is, due to copyright infringements, all copied software must be collected and destroyed to protect the future success of all students and staff at SCSD. So pieces that are missing